Everyone, it's Emily Fox. Today's video is going to be my February book haul, so the books that I've accumulated in the last couple of weeks. Mostly used book shopping, and I'm going to tell you right now, this is one of the weirdest book hauls I've ever done. It's just so random. I feel like I thought more people would be getting rid of books, in January because cleaning up. Probably just don't want to go outside because it's been snowing nonstop here and it's announcing like minus 35 this weekend. I'm very excited. So, we're just going to accept that this is going to be all over the place. Okay? First book is going to set the tone. Are you ready? I don't know what I was thinking. This is The Age of Innocence, which is a classic, but look at this edition. It is the most giant thing ever. Honestly, I was like, oh, this is pretty. The only thing is it doesn't fit on any of my shelf. Like, why did I do this to myself? But it has great reviews. This is actually something I did want to read. But this edition, like I said, is giant. Like, when am I going to sit down and want to read this? I mean, at least it's floppy. But it's just so giant. It has, like, 100 pages. I don't know how long this book is supposed to be. Probably 4 times, because you can fit 4 books in here. Why did I do that to myself? To be fair, it was $2. And it is pretty. It is pretty. But yes, I'm realizing that this is a little dumb because I have nowhere to put this. But we're going to find a spot. I'm telling myself that if I actually really love it, I can always, keep an eye out for a pretty edition that is more compatible with bookshelves. But this happened. You know what? I'm not actually mad at it. It is pretty. I do want to read it. But it was a little dumb. I did say I wanted to read more classics, so, I grabbed it. So, next. I did also say I wanted to try and find more mystery thrillers that could maybe become favorites. I haven't been really lucky with the genre, and to be fair, whenever I go use book shopping, I tend to stay far away from the rows and rows of mystery thriller books because I don't recognize any. I've been just burned too many times, I feel like, with where I get my recommendations from. I need to actively make a list to try to look for them. But something I've been told to give a second shot to is Agatha Christie, which I've read, and then there were none by her. Frankly, kind of lukewarm. It was fine. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it, but I don't consider her a favorite author. I mean, I read this like 4 or 5 years ago and never picked up something else by her. So I picked up 2, and they're actually strangely big too, but it was apparently the vibe at that store. So I picked up this one because it's the first Hercule Poirot mystery. So gotta start with the first one. I believe you don't have to read them exactly in a row. I feel like a lot of these, like Inspector's story, you don't necessarily follow the backstory if you haven't read them all in order, but you get still the mystery thriller. So yes, the first one, The Mysterious Affair at Styles. So not too big, but once again, it's weirdly tall, but it's 120 pages. So I feel like to give her a second shot, that might be a good way. Although the first ones, I feel like are never the best ones. So I wanted to try and find another one that was still kind of early work. I couldn't find book 2 on the shelf, but I did find book 3, which is The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. I think this is the third one. And yes, do you see how big they are? I don't understand, but yes, I thought maybe during the fall I can pick those up. They're not too big. Again, the second one is 200 pages, so could be a good way to give her a second/last chance. So we'll see if I'm more impressed with these 2. I do like to try and predict who did it, who's gonna murder who. I am that annoyed person when I watch a movie that I'll guess what's gonna happen. I've been working on that. I try not to do it except with people that know that I'm like that and they let me do it. I wouldn't do that if they hated it. Don't worry. But yes, maybe I could vlog it and you could see how wrong I am because I don't think I'm going to figure it out because she's good. She's good. Lately, I've been catching myself buying books or at least eyeing them because of the title. That's how I discovered I, who have never known men, and it's now one of my all-time favorite books. I've been raving about it nonstop. A lot of you have been picking it up and I'm still looking for a French version because I read it in English, but I didn't know it was written in French first, and since it's my first language, I should. But I've been catching myself doing the same thing now because I'm like, it worked once. It might work again. So I picked up this one called Girls Against God, which that caught my eye. And then I saw at the bottom, author of Paradise Rot, which is that the one with like lesbians with pink piss cake? Is that what it was? I feel like I've heard that description. I'm a little nervous, but listen, that title, plus it's about, it's in a small town, which I love small towns, in, I believe they're witches. So I don't care. The reviews were not great on Goodreads, but I don't tend to always agree with Goodreads. So I picked it up. Once again, it's not super big. It's just over 200 pages. So I wanted to give it a shot. We're going to see if buying a book, reading it because of the cover or the title works for me again. So fingers crossed. The next books were purchased by Aubrey from my Amazon wishlist. Thank you so much. I am so excited for these. They're the best books on this pile. You're going to see why in a second. But I've mentioned how much I wanted to give cozy fantasy a shot this year. I read Legends and Lattes last year like everyone else and loved it like everyone else. And it's a standalone adult fantasy. Or is it a duology? I mean, the author's planning a second book that should be coming out later this year. But it's like in the same town, but it's not necessarily following the same characters. So, but I want to try them more because I like the idea of them and I want to see if they're actually going to work for me. And she got me two. The first one is Keeper of Enchanted Rooms, and the second one is The House Witch. And both of them sound so cute. They're adult fantasy, cozy fantasy, so it's low stakes. Hopefully I'll fall in love with them. This one is actually really big too. So this one they're saying like heartwarming, humorous blend, romance, mystery, and you're following a witch who basically makes the food for a royal household. So that's cute. And the other one, the main character is a writer who was estranged from her family, and she inherits a house in the 1800s. And when she gets there, the house locks her in. So that sounds cool to you. I'm very, very excited for both of these. And then a classic fantasy. I've been told so many times I need to read this one. This one is The Master and Margarita. You're following, again, a magicians. Listen, I'm a sucker for magic and just witches and magicians. So I believe this one might be like a magical school a little bit. Is that possible? I feel like a lot of people have been telling me to read this one, so I'm looking forward to it. A lot of people were saying that it's also a little bit confusing, a little bit in the lines of Vita Nostra, which I've read last year and really enjoyed, so very much looking forward to that one too. And this is where things get a little bit all over the place. The first book, to set the tone. This pine caught my eye. I mean, how could it not? It's like lime green. Everyone knows your mother is a witch. Again, maybe I should vlog this actually. Should I do a vlog of like reading books that I bought because of their titles? Because I 100% bought it because of the title. This one is historical fiction but supposed to be kind of funny, and you're following main character who's accused of being a witch. I think it's inspired from like real-time events, but obviously again made funny, and how could I not? How could I not? Again, the reviews were not super positive, so I didn't care apparently and picked it up, and witches, I'm a sucker. And the rest is a bunch of nonfiction, feminist nonfiction. I don't know whose really cool aunt or grandma cleaned up their house. We're going with that story, but I'm so grateful because I kept seeing these kind of books everywhere, and I never really took the time to look at the reviews because I feel like in general it's going to be hit and miss. Like some of them are not going to have aged well, but I feel like I've been really wanting to try more books like this because I recently read A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf, and while I didn't connect with everything or agree with everything she said, I think it's still interesting to see where things were and compare them to now to see, are we having the same discussions? And what has actually improved, what we still need to work on, and these seem just really, really appealing. So I'm going to start with the ones that I had definitely seen, like either on TikTok or just, you know, on TikTok, let's just say it. And then we're going to go with the ones that I've never heard of, but they sounded cool, so I picked them up. A lot of them actually stayed there because I looked at the reviews quickly, not just the rating, but the reviews, and some of them were a little too, like, how to call that? Like new age for me, but this is your warning. A lot of these look old because they are old. The first one is The Creation of Patriarchy. Look how old this, like this beige is just, it screams 1986. 1986. So I feel like it has to be good. I've seen that one actually. It doesn't say anything on the back, but I mean the title is pretty self-explanatory. I think it's really interesting to read older feminist work. So that's the first one. The second one that I've also seen was this one, When God Was a Woman, which this one, it sounds really interesting. They're saying the landmark exploration of the ancient worship of the great goddess and the eventual suppression of women's rights. Yes, I feel like that's true. Like when you look back at it, if like, no matter what your beliefs are, I'm not religious whatsoever, but I always felt like it makes more sense if you have no knowledge of anything. And some people can actually create a whole human being inside of them. How is that not impressive? How is that not godlike? Like, I feel like even nowadays we know how it works, but it's still super impressive. So I think it's interesting to see how there used to be goddesses like Isis, and they had like really important roles, and then, you know, all of that was suppressed. So I wanted to try it. This one sounds good. The next one, again, very similar themes. The Chalice. Is that what you said? Chalice, yes. I mentioned that last book haul, huh? It was a book called Chalice, and from where I'm from, this is a swear word because all of our swear words in Quebec are related to religion. And the Blade. So our history, her future, essentially, once again, all about the cultural origins. It shows that warfare and the war of sexes are neither divinely nor biologically ordained. We'll see, that sounds pretty cool. Also pretty old. They all were, I should have told you. This one is 1987. Are they all 80s? This one was 76. It makes me laugh that they're old. And then this one I also saw on TikTok. This is the last one. The rest are just random pics that were part of that pile, that section. So this one is Who Cooked the Last Supper? The Women History of the World. So it's essentially about how, you know, when you learn about history, it's about the great men, blah, blah, blah. Because nothing was ever written about the women. And obviously in that very eye-catching title, you wonder, what about the women? So the back is basically saying how this is the history you should have learned that you never did. And some of the reviews are saying that this was quite funny. So I'm looking forward to all these four because, again, I have seen them everywhere. Okay, the next three, I have never heard of them. I just quickly looked at the reviews like I was mentioning, and these seemed appealing. The first one's actually from the same author as one of the fours I've mentioned. And it is Secret Pleasure, Sex, Myth, and the Politics of the Body. I feel like these books were owned by like a really cool aunt, like a witchy aunt from like that watch Practical Magic, you know? This one was from 1995. It's about like reclaiming sex, love, and pleasure. I'm not gonna lie, I did pick it up because it was floppy. Obviously, the title and the theme seem interesting. I looked at the review, they were positive. So I will try that one too. I was complaining how my nonfiction shelves were not representing my taste, and I feel like this is definitely fixing that. The next one is the most recent one. It sounds really, really interesting. Because of Sex, One Law, 10 Cases, and 50 Years That Change American Women's Life at Work. So it's basically about how they added into law that, you know, you couldn't discriminate because of sex. So I'm looking forward to that one. I'm obviously Canadian, not American, but I feel like laws are becoming more and more similar all over the world. So yes, looking forward to that too. And then the last one, I had to. I couldn't stop laughing. It's not funny, but I couldn't stop laughing because look how old this one looks. Pioneer Women, Voices from the Kansas Frontier. 1980s again. Clearly, it was from the same person. Like a lot of these for sure. You do get pictures. It's essentially like written memoirs from some of the women that were part of like the pioneers. And I can't imagine much worse for a life. Can you imagine? Like, you're forced to marry someone you probably don't care about, have a bunch of their babies, and then you just work really hard 24/7. There's a bunch of pictures. Like, can you imagine her life? So yes, I'm looking forward to that one. I am assuming this is all about obviously very specific women, the women that were educated enough to actually be able to write their stories, but it sounds cool. It's probably not going to be something I will binge read, but I've been reading nonfiction a lot by reading like a chapter a day. It's been really working for me, so maybe? Listen, I couldn't resist. It just looks so old. I wanted it. Even though it was really random, I'm actually really happy with these purchases. I'm really looking forward to reading these. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you've read any of these, especially all the nonfictions, because I don't even know where to start. I'm really, really excited. Again, the mystery thrillers, once I get the kick of reading them during, you know, the summer, I will definitely read some Agatha Christie, and then the cozy fantasy will happen very early. It may not be in March because I will have to catch up with all the books I'm currently reading, but I think April I will do a reading vlog trying to read a bunch of cozy fantasy. It would be nice. It would be nice. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thumbs up, subscribe. I will be putting more videos on the screen that I recommend you check out, and I will see you in an upcoming video very soon. Bye.